It's Mother's Day weekend, and on Mother's Day weekend, we usually host a party for our family and the mothers in our family. We also have some birthdays, so we kind of put it all into one and have one big party. Last year I cooked a brisket for Mother's Day weekend and it turned out great. Everybody loved it. This year I'm gonna do a brisket again. However, there's gonna be a twist, and I think you're gonna wanna see it. Now, I almost always do my briskets overnight just because of the timing. We're usually preparing them for the next day to have a party at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you have to pretty much start your brisket the night before and let it cook overnight in order for it to turn out in time. Not really the biggest fan of reheating a brisket if I don't have to. There's nothing like a big sliced up brisket when family comes over and they all just rave about it. It makes for an incredibly good time, and that's what barbecue is all about. When I'm doing an overnight cook, the Rectech pellet grill is absolutely the grill of choice because it stays consistent the whole night long. I can go to sleep and not have to think about it. Now, what I do miss out on is that real intense smoky flavor from charcoal or from like an offset stick burner. So I'm gonna try something different in order to try to get the best of both worlds. Now, there's some barbecue guys out there that believe you can only do things one way. I think that's the opposite of what barbecue is all about. It's about trying new things, reacting to what's happening, and trying to come out with the best meat possible. These folks are telling you it can't be done any other way. It has to be done the way I say, or it's not gonna turn out right. That's garbage. You don't have to listen to any of that mess. Try your own thing. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start the brisket on the Weber kettle, and that's gonna get me that nice charcoal, that nice wood flavor. And then after it's gotten quite a bit of smoke content, probably 2 or 3 hours into the cook, I'm gonna transfer it over to the Rectech. And then the Rectech's gonna take care of it all night long, and we'll see where it's at in the morning. So let's get the best of both worlds here. Let's get started. So we're gonna use a little less than half of 1 chimney charcoal. Then I'm probably gonna use about the same amount unlit. So this is the slow and sear. And the slow and sear is amazing in the Weber kettles because it helps you really distinguish a indirect cooking. You'll have your charcoals over here, and then over here is nothing. This is where your indirect happens. The water layer between that little chamber there, it's hard to see, but we're gonna put water in there and it's gonna really separate those two zones. This is a 14.5 pound brisket. It is a prime grade brisket, but look at the marbling. This is a really nice piece of meat. I'm gonna do the trim that I need to do, and I'm gonna try to keep it fairly minimum. Just gonna get rid of some of this top fat here. I want the rub to be able to really stick on this side. Okay, so right here is where the flat and the point come together, and this fat layer here goes right between those two muscles all the way down. It's pretty hard and it's not gonna render very well. I'm just gonna cut a little bit of this off the top. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the meat side. I'm gonna let the rest of this be. So as you can see, this is a really thick layer of fat, and we don't want this. We want to get about 1/4 inch of fat. So we're gonna start trimming at this until we get to 1/4 inch. I'm gonna clean this edge up. There's a lot of this that is really fat, so I'm going to try to bring it back to right about there. I'm going to get some of this here off. Like I said, we want to have about 1/4 inch of fat. This thing is loaded. That's about it. I'm going to let that be there. I don't want to dig into this thing too deep. I just want to get the really thick layers of fat off. All right, I'm pretty happy with this. Got most of the fat layers down to about 1/4 of an inch, and I've got it shaped up pretty nice. Now the last thing that I do on all my briskets, the grain's running this way, and so when I cut those slices, I want to be directly perpendicular to that grain, so I'm cutting across it. That's going to make the muscle fibers shorter within each slice, and therefore make sure that we have as a tender brisket as possible. So I'm just going to snip it right here, and that's going to tell me, and that's a lot of fat on the end anyway. So this will tell me where to run my slices, because it's a defined edge that's unique and not going to get confused with the rest of the brisket. After this thing's rubbed down and been on the smoker, you're not going to be able to tell which way the grain's running. All right, so it's time to go ahead and inject. I'm going to use the Pramila flavor injector, and I love this. One of the nozzles has 3 holes on 4 sides, so you don't have to go in to the brisket as much. It'll really do a lot more work for you. Little tip, take a little non-stick spray, just a little squirt, and that'll help make sure this thing is nice and smooth. All right, so I'm injecting with 6 ounces apple juice, 6 ounces beef broth, and 1 ounce of apple cider. What I do is I go with the grain, and then I go across the grain and try to do about a 1-inch grid. Put your finger over where you inject, and when you're pulling back, that'll help knock down the mess. All right, so the first layer of flavor I'm gonna do is Cosmos Q Texas beef. And this has a great mixture. It has a great mixture of sugar, salt, garlic, onion, and your basic spices. It keeps it pretty simple. And I am going to put some on the fat cap side. And there's the second layer of flavor, coarse black pepper. Put a little bit on the fat cap side. Don't need to add any extra salt because the Cosmos Texas beef there had plenty in it. And then one more dusting of the Texas beef, just a light one. So there's an ugly, ugly thunderstorm coming. We actually have a tornado watch. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this brisket on the Weber, make sure my temperature's good, and stick this storm out. I don't think it'll last too long. That's what we're working with. I just put the lit charcoals kind of on top and beside the unlit. 250 degrees, that's where I'm gonna smoke. Also, I'm going to put 2 large chunks of wood, apple wood, and that's going to get our smoke content on this brisket. Let's get this thing rolling. All right, it's been close to 2 hours. We're going to go out here and check our brisket and see how it's doing. Our temperature is exactly 250 degrees. Now we're also going to turn the Rectech on and get it up to temperature so we're ready to go. Power button. Overnight I'm going to cook at 225 degrees. And the Rectech has this function here, extreme smoke. So that just puts a few extra pellets in there and makes sure we get a little more smoke content. All right, we're 3.5 hours in. You can hear that thunder still getting it out here. All right, so there's our brisket, fat cap down. Now I'm gonna spritz because spritzing Spritzing brings a little bit of a chill to the surface of the meat. Smoke is attracted to cooler surfaces. One last thing before we tuck this thing in for tonight, top it with a little extra pepper. I am going to monitor it for about a half hour, 45 minutes. It's almost midnight. If I know it's good then, I'll go to bed and I won't have any worries. The Rec Tech will do its magic. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and hit that. Help support me. Give me a like if you like the video and share it with your friends and family. Alright, so it's the next morning. The brisket's been on for a total of about 9 hours, and that includes the time it was on the Weber. You're cooking the color here, and for me, this color is about perfect, so I think it's time to wrap it. Alright, I'm not doing anything special here. I'm just going to spritz it. Now, aluminum foil, what I have is one piece going long ways, and then underneath two pieces that are perpendicular. That's going to allow me to pour my spritz right in here and collect all these juices, because this brisket's big. And that's it. Wrap this guy up nice and tight. Let's take a temperature while we're here though. 156, 157. All right, so we're 14 hours in, and I'm checking temps. And, well, I'm checking for tenderness. Temps are kind of a guideline, and that's what I've been using. I've been checking it randomly for the last 3 or 4 hours with temps, but tenderness is really what I'm looking for. And it goes in and out with no resistance. The point is incredible. Temp is about 208. This brisket's done. All right, so the next step is a very important one to make sure I get this brisket just the way I want it. And that's letting it rest just like that for probably an hour and a half or so. And I'm gonna stick it inside my oven with the oven off and just let it sit. The brisket turned out awesome. Total cook time was just under 15 hours. Now it's time to see if switching grills really paid off. That's good. That's real good. That is some good brisket. Don't be limited by the limitations others have put on themselves. Do your own thing. Like this cook right here, I love that taste of that Weber, that charcoal, that wood flavor. I love my pellet grill too. My pellet grill serves a really convenient purpose as far as barbecuing goes, and it still produces a pretty good flavor, but there's something special about, I don't know, man. There's just something awesome about, you know, some charcoal, some wood, and that flavor is just phenomenal, especially on brisket. Don't be stuck on you can only use this or you can only use that. You know, keep your mind open. This brisket was definitely a little harder as far as effort goes, and especially with the storm, but it turned out amazing. I really appreciate you sticking around for the whole video. Please smash the like button, and if you're not a subscriber, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Lots of awesome videos to do with barbecue and beer right here at Delmarva Backyard.